All right, going for a little drive today up towards San Francisco, and I thought I would just take you all along with me, see where the day takes us. Meeting somebody for lunch, and I don't know what else. So we'll see. Maybe this will be uploaded, maybe it won't, but I'm just gonna take a drive and talk. Okay. So it's a beautiful day. Well, it's a beautiful day this way. It's about to rain like crazy. We're about to get a blizzard up in the mountains. But it's a good day for a drive. Every day is a good day for a drive, if you know what I mean. And get through a little tunnel here. Sorry, it might be dark. I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do with this channel and what I want to do with cars. And for some of you that don't know, like, I've worked in the sneaker industry for going on 20 years pretty soon here. And I have always wanted to create a business that... Scratch that. I've always wanted to create opportunities for other people. That's really my core goal in everything that I do. And hopefully this channel will eventually get to the point where it can allow me to either, bring other people on to help me with the content, or the, future events that I want to do, or even beyond that. And I'll get into like kind of the long-term goals of where I see this evolving, hopefully. And, for those of you that don't know, like the sneaker side of things, I kind of want to do a very similar thing. And I don't know if there's enough crossover for it to work, but I have always loved working with businesses and helping them connect with creative people, whether that's as, project basis, or young people that are looking to learn how to get their foot in the door, or bringing in partnerships with other YouTubers, or like social media people, or any of those things. So like I've always really loved that. I love talking to people. I love hearing people's passion and excitement, and I want to try to take that and turn that into something bigger than just my career. And in my mind, what that is right now is kind of a creative space that, allows people to learn some of the things that I know. It allows me to bring in other people so that I can learn from them, so that, people watching can learn from them, whether that's, people that are making YouTube videos or creating podcasts, like any of that kind of stuff, but also the hands-on stuff with cars, like being able to work on the cars. I don't know what I'm doing with them. I've messed with them for all my life. I bought my first car when I was about 13 years old. It was an 81 Honda Prelude. It was $150, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that I wanted to try to work on cars, and I wanted to try to fix that up. It didn't run. Thankfully, we got it towed, for free with that $150. And in hindsight, like, it was a big learning experience because the car was all rusted and super, super done. Outside, it looked great, but once you looked under and saw the rust underneath, there was no way to fix it. But it gave me a platform to just tinker and to just mess around with the car. If you can imagine, 1981's emissions stuff was just pure chaos of vacuum lines under the hood for a car like that. And for me, it really was just a starting point to something that I was already super passionate about. Like my family had Honda Civics. My mom and my dad had Honda Civic CVCCs before that. So I kind of was just born into a Honda family, so to speak. And not everybody has Hondas now, but I've kind of like carried the torch for the most part. You know, I think that just kind of set off a lot of, you know, a deeper connection with cars for me than I think that's just set off a deeper connection with cars for me, because I had already, you know, I was one of those kids where your parents would put you in the baby seat and take you for a drive to put you to sleep. I vividly remember riding in my uncle's 924 Porsche. And he was just so excited to have a Porsche and to be able to say he had one back then, that, you know, like those kind of things just stuck with me. My uncle my uncle that I'm named after by middle name was also, you know, super into cars. He unfortunately died in a car accident when I was really young. But, you know, both those uncles, rest in peace, were kind of like sort of foundational for me in a lot of ways, being a fan of cars. And, you know, obviously my dad and my stepdad both equally as important in that kind of passion for cars. I think the interesting thing about where I've come is, you know, like I've always kept it as a hobby. I've always had project cars. As I've said in previous videos, I'm a hoarder. It's not a good thing. I'm really trying to be better about like being organized and letting go. And hopefully I can share some of that process and the learning that I come across as I do that stuff on this channel. Oops. But basically, what I would like to do is create a place where it's kind of the best example I can think of is like the Rob and Big Fantasy Factory. You know, it was, if you don't know, the original intention for that, from Rob Dyrdek, who's a famous skateboarder, had this show on MTV years ago and has had all sorts of success in other aspects of the world as an entrepreneur now. He originally wanted to do that as a show where you would create a business for every episode. And I really like that idea. But the physical location for me is really interesting too, because I was a kid that, you know, parents were busy and working and, you know, like didn't always have a parent at home coming home from school. And, you know, through the years, you know, my mom was home more frequently, I guess, than not. But it was always one of those things where, you know, we were just kind of doing what we do. And, you know, I think there's a lot of kids out there that could benefit from a place where they could come and like have a little bit of a free space to do what they want to do. Maybe learn how to use the cameras, maybe learn how to edit videos, maybe learn how to design, you know, maybe learn how to do, you know, kind of mechanical work and, you know, or electrical work on the cars, or, you know, like that type of stuff. I don't think of it as like a full education center. There wouldn't be a curriculum or anything, but I do think that there would be some aspects of those things of saying like, hey, I've done enough of this to where I've learned it. I've got a little certificate of some kind to say, you know, I showed up for X amount of days and learned this, that, and the other about the, you know, nature of cars, or the nature of business or marketing or whatever those things are. And I think it's going to be very broad. Like it's a kind of grandiose idea. But if you have any thoughts on this, I would love to hear from you in the comments, or if you are listening to this on a podcast episode or whatever, you know, feel free to message me on any of the platforms. And if you know somebody that would like to support this in any way, that's equally as, you know, awesome. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but over the course of the next, you know, whatever amount of time, I'm going to start putting a plan together. And, you know, full transparency, like the reason why I'm actually talking about this now is because I was let go from my job. You know, I don't have like a ton of severance. There's, you know, a paycheck or so that will help me go for another month or so. But, you know, I'll probably be looking for consulting work and contract work and, you know, maybe a full-time role depending on what comes up. But I'm also, like thinking like maybe this is the time to try to like make some progress towards this kind of grandiose idea. And what I think would be really cool, and I would love to hear anybody's thoughts on this, is, could we make this a place where, so I am really lucky to live in Monterey, California. We have Car Week every summer. That's actually turned into about 2 weeks worth of car stuff going on around the area. And there's just constantly car things going on, like there's, we're roughly 45 minutes or so from San Jose, Silicon Valley, 2 hours from San Francisco. There's just, there's cars and coffee within driving distance every weekend here. It's not quite as robust as I would say Southern California cars and coffee, but, that's also something that I would like to have this space for, is to give my friends from other areas, whether that be California or Nevada or Arizona or, Oregon, or any other people that want to make a long road trip to this area, is give them a place to kind of land and hang out and chill and know that they'd be welcome without it feeling like, oh, I just got to be in a hotel the whole time, or I just got to be, at the racetrack the whole time. I spend a lot of time at Laguna Seca, and, I think that's something that is a bucket list thing for many people. And I'm super aware of that because it's been a bucket list thing for me for 40 something years. We bought season passes last year for the first time ever. And if you would have told me I would have even been able to afford to do that as a kid, I would have just thought you were full of it. But I do think that, maybe there's a way that we can create something where it's an opportunity for people, whether that's, just a place to connect with others that are interested in cars. Maybe it's a place where you can use some of the tools that we have, some of the, camera equipment that we have. Maybe you want to come and be on a podcast with me or with another group of people, or maybe there's people that want to come rent the space to create their own content, and we can support that, and, production and all those things. And I think that's ultimately like why it turns into such a big idea, is because there are so many nuanced things that I've experienced and done for work in my life that I could bring people in and allow them to connect. And, for cars, one of the things that I always think about is like, most people don't get to see the most special cars in the world, right? Like, unless you're going to, a very specific event like a Car Week or, any others around the globe, you probably don't get the opportunity to see cars that just live in this area on a regular basis. There's a lot of storage places here where, storage is kind of a funny word to say for it because it's absolutely more than that. But, garage condos is a big deal here. There's a handful of these giant warehouses where you buy essentially like let's say like a 3 to 4 car garage, depending on how big your cars are. And then you have a loft in there, and like I've seen pictures of them, and guys that have like TVs and watch races and watch sports and, whatever, have little kitchen, micro kitchen, refrigerator, all that kind of stuff. So all those cars are here, and maybe there's an opportunity for me to help maintain them or work with some of the detailers in the area to like give them a place to detail some of these cars and I guess showcase them a little bit more, rather than having them sit in a garage for, 50 weeks out of the year and come out for 2 weeks during Car Week. Maybe there's a way that we can partner with these owners to kind of educate people on the stories behind these cars and the stories behind, the designers or the brands, because, there's so many out there that people just don't get exposure to on a regular basis. So the idea would be that you would create something that has kind of like a consulting business aspect to it, a creative, studio aspect to it, probably like a coffee shop of some kind that you can come in and just grab a drink and hang out and check out the cars. Obviously, we'd want to do cars and coffee type things as frequently as we possibly could, because that brings, people together, and that's really the key for the success of this idea. I don't have all of it mapped out, but I just kind of figured that I would put it out there and see if anybody has heard of anything like this, seen anything like this, had any ideas or thoughts around it, and really kind of just see if there's anybody that wants to be a part of it and support it. And I'm really not clear exactly on the financials of it. I definitely don't have the money to just go do it myself. Otherwise, I would have done it by now. But if I could figure out a way to get funding to make this happen, whether that's through, investors or grants or whatever other format that we could take on to help support, even down to equipment that we use and location and space. My idea is that we would keep it somewhere close to Monterey, Salinas, this area, because there's a lot of other touristy things that people can come do. And I think, this would be like a family type of thing where, if the family goes on a road trip or on a vacation, or even just comes up for the weekend or down for the weekend or whatever that looks like, maybe, some of the kids don't want to be into cars and some of the kids want to go to the aquarium in Monterey, or you want to go kind of tour some of the farms that are around the area and get some of the, it's the salad bowl of the world, as they call it. I'm just passing Castroville, which is the artichoke capital of the world. I think this area is just full of a lot of unique and interesting things. And obviously, if you get a little further away, you can get into Silicon Valley, you can get into, professional sports, events, all the craziness that exists in a massive place like that. And then obviously you're, a little bit further away, you've got, San Francisco, there's wineries, there's all sorts of stuff around here, which is why we love living here. But I think that the idea for this would be something that would be kind of a in-between or near Laguna Seca, so we can kind of support the races that happen there, the events that happen there, by having the, maybe it's a pre-party or a kickoff party for a race weekend, or maybe it's, an after event where we kind of download and talk about what happened over the weekend and give people a little bit more depth to the actual experience. I think one thing that I've always noticed about going to the races and going to the racetrack for events, now that we live there, I haven't camped at the track for a year or so, or a year and a half or so, but I always loved going to the track and camping and kind of having that wake up to the sound of racing. But that doesn't always work out for everyone. And I think, you kind of feel as you're going to the track for an event, it can be a long day, it can be a long weekend, and you don't necessarily feel totally connected to everything that's going on. And sometimes you do. Some people are great about getting all the information out there on social media and getting all the results and talking about it and selling the idea. But basically, for me, this would be another way for us to support the community, the car community, and the culture around Laguna Seca, Monterey, Pebble Beach, Concourse, the Quail, all of these things that exist as events for that 1 to 2 week period in the summer. But we could create something that kind of supports them in between. So that's where my mind is at with it. I think the other part of it that I would really like to figure out is, is there creating content for YouTube is obviously something I'm really passionate about and I really want to do more of. I love the idea of doing these builds, and obviously it's going to take me a while to do the builds that exist, that I have, of the cars that I have, because I'm just me. And sometimes I can get a friend or my brother or something to be around, but I don't make progress enough to be on the level of a lot of what channels are out there and what maybe people expect. But I do want to continue to do the littlest things. I'm a big fan of Honda Elements, the Honda Ridgeline that I'm driving now, Honda Acura Integra, RSX, Honda CRX, all these cars that, I would love to continue to create short videos to support some of the things. It's like, hey, I figured out how to do this little thing, or I bought this little, quirky thing, or change the air filter, or, just wash the car and talk to you guys about all of these things that are in my head and where I'm going with it. So that's a part of the way I see this facility working, or this space working too, is like maybe there's a way that we can have people come and create content around their own cars, and maybe we can support the builds and support in ways that I guess are just a little non-traditional, you know. Like I think that like it would just be cool to be able to find ways to support people that don't necessarily have the money to throw a set of wheels and suspension on their car, or need some help doing an oil change, or any of those things. I think there's just a lot of ways. And then the other element is like, one of the other elements is like obviously that educational piece for younger kids, and some sort of after school program that they can come and whether that's just maybe it's driving simulators, racing simulators. Maybe we can get a sponsorship or a deal with somebody, and they can provide us with some setups so kids could come in and actually learn how to drive and improve that. That's not my wheelhouse. I'm obviously not a professional driver of any kind, but I love the marketing side of racing more than I love the driving part of it. I love driving. Don't get me wrong. Like if I could drive 24/7 all over the place and just road trip all the time, I probably would. But the idea of giving kids a place to land after school, a little bit of comfort for the parents that, hey, kids get out of school at 2:30 and work doesn't end for parents until 5 or 6 or whatever that looks like. They could have a place they could come to and be safe and be able to learn some things that are non-traditional outside of the normal school kind of workflow or whatever. And maybe just connect with other kids that have curiosities about those things, whether it's cars or design or creativity of any kind. So I guess the other part of that is obviously incorporating some sort of coffee shop. I don't know if that's like a full coffee shop vibe or a kind of pop-up or a food truck type thing. But I feel like that would be a way that we could support the, Cars and Coffee on the weekends, but also, throughout the week, if we have the ability, if we can get the foot traffic and the people in there to justify it. And obviously we don't want to just have it sit there and have nobody use it. But I think that the other part of that is it could be something where we could also kind of do some branding and some, creative partnerships where we could work with other YouTubers or other creative folks that would maybe want to create maybe it's creating their own version of coffee, and we partner and have them come in and talk about why they chose this flavor or this style of drink, or, it doesn't necessarily have to be coffee either. There's a lot of ways we can do that. There's obviously boba and tea and all these other kind of things that are out there that are just casual places that people kind of find their way to and hang out and connect with their friends at. So, and then like another element that I keep thinking as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about more. So this might be a long-winded video, and if you listen to it or watch it, thank you. But really, I just kind of wanted to talk through this for myself as well, because when I do some of these things that I've thought of in the past, get put back in front of my mind, and I can actually put them into the plans. So one of the things that I love about the Honda Element community and having a Honda Element is just being able to flip the bed up in the back and car camp wherever, kind of thing. You can do that in a lot of places along the coast. Obviously it's beautiful around here, and a lot of people come here. I've been a little off, as you've seen, with the lack of videos on this channel, or the lack of uploads, I should say. So the thing about the Element community that I wanted to talk about is just how, there's a lot of people that get together and travel. They go to camp up in the mountains. They'll go out into the desert. I've seen so many different groups go do that. One thing that I think would be really cool regarding that is actually creating like a space outside of whatever this facility or warehouse or whatever it looks like, is to allow people a place that they know they can come camp in their car for a certain amount of time or whatever. Maybe there's limits on that. I don't know the logistics, and I would have to look into the legalities of it. But I know a lot of people camp in their cars, live in the van. My girlfriend and I have wanted to, convert a Sprinter van and do that at some point in our lives too. We never got to it so far, but we eventually will at some point. And, I think the Element is kind of the baby step for that, even though I love that car regardless of that idea. It's definitely, the road trips we've been able to take in the Element have been amazing, and they give us a lot of opportunity to kind of explore and without spending the crazy amounts of money that it costs to stay in hotels. So I think it would be really cool to have some sort of parking lot where, people can come stay for certain amounts of time. And obviously, if we're going to do cars and coffee, you want to have a big enough parking lot as well. But I have no idea where this would happen, how this will happen, or when this will happen. This is just an idea that I continually think about, and it's nonstop. I just can't stop thinking about it, and I feel like I need to start putting it out there and seeing who wants to maybe make it happen. Are there people that are interested in I don't know, working with me on it? If people know somebody that would want to invest, if people want to whatever. The final thing I will say about this and what's been in my mind is, I would love for this to be a museum of sorts, not just for cars specifically, or not just for the cars that people think about when I say car museum, but kind of all the adjacent stories that exist. For me, that would be I'm big into racing shoes, not racing shoes like performance racing shoes, but I'm big into Formula One. I've got a collection of Formula One sneakers. Some of the race teams had their own shoes made back in the day. Some of them work with a Nike or an Adidas or a Puma, and they have their shoes for the teams. So all of those things, like jerseys and race suits, and jerseys is not the right word, but like pit crew and race suits and helmets, and create a place where we have a little bit of a stage where maybe during car week this becomes a place where people can introduce new projects, introduce new cars, not like the level of SEMA, but maybe to some extent taking some elements of SEMA and making it a little bit more intimate. So you have, let's say, a space for 50 or 100 or 200, I don't know, however many people, where they can come and watch someone speak about the cars that are being built. I was lucky enough to hear Steve Saleen speak about his new cars and about his journey at the California Auto Museum in Sacramento a couple years back. And it was such a great experience to just get to sit there and, my dad and I went, and I just learned so much about his journey and about how, he's was really more of the first official car manufacturer in California. We would think of Tesla as that now, but it was just really interesting. And being at the museum and around all those old cars, and getting to hear him talk about it. And obviously it was a charity thing, so they're auctioning off artwork and collectibles and events and all that kind of stuff. I like the idea of a museum, but I like it a little bit broader than just cars. And obviously for me, I think that there's a lot of important cars that aren't important in monetary value or collectability, or they're not going to show up. I'm talking about my favorite Hondas right now. I have probably 50 or 100 favorite cars that I could make a list of that I would love to build on this channel and fix up, and whether that's donating them to an organization or eventually like even giving away some of the cars that are rebuilt to, people that need cars. I think there's just a lot of opportunity to do that, and that would be a part of this. And the museum aspect of it would be just a way for people to see, like, I don't know, like, let's just say, how do I get a car that's like not going to make it to Car Week or Laguna Seca or Pebble Beach for any reason, but maybe it's really interesting to a certain group of people. Like for me, for instance, that would be like the Bergenholtz Honda CRX. If you remember that car would be a really cool car, or Jeremy Lukovsky's CRX. Something like that, where like you just kind of know that the car is not going to be, it's probably sitting in a garage someplace. Some guys keep them nice and fresh and clean. Some of them, it gets covered with a, tarp or a car cover, and it just sits and collects dust. So maybe there's a way that we can showcase some of those and educate people about those stories. And I think that would be really fun. So that's the other kind of piece to it, is the museum aspect. Obviously, I don't know much about running a museum. I would love to know if you have any experience running a museum or worked at a museum, or if there's even a way to kind of connect the culture of museums to like a more young and exciting maybe audience. Sorry, I just went past a CHP, good old police officers, and I'm wondering if he's gonna hop out and try to pull me over while I'm recording. Well, I think we're good. Let's cross the fingers and hope that I'm not doing anything illegal, I don't think. But anyway, that's kind of the general idea of what I would like to do with Artimotiv, what I'm trying to create here. And, maybe that name changes over the course of time. But for me, the name Artimotiv is really the way I look at absolutely everything in the form of cars or motorcycles or any of those types of things, and how they are basically a form of art. Somebody created that and said, I'm going to design this for our company, and every piece of that to me is a form of art. And beyond that, the thing that I love about cars the most is that we as consumers take that art and give it our own personality and our own aesthetic, and like just basically turn it into our own piece of art. And it's really like just such a beautiful thing, whether that's a style or a set of wheels or a color or a paint job or customizations, whether you like it or not. I don't think that there are many things that allow us to express ourselves the way that cars do. And for me, that's just such a beautiful thing. That's why I'm working on this channel. That's why I am putting this out there, to say like, hey, there's got to be some people out there that have that same belief, that understand where I'm coming from with it. Let me connect with them. Let's connect and figure out how to do this kind of stuff together and support each other, whether that's across the country or around the other side of the globe or wherever. Like the beauty of the internet is that you never know where this stuff can take you. And I'm just really, I'm looking at losing my job as a fresh start, and this opportunity, and trying to see what I can do with it and where it will take me. And hopefully just this passion for cars will connect me with some awesome people, because that's how it's worked in the sneaker world for me for the past almost 20 years. And I'm looking forward to like just getting to know people and hearing the stories and help tell the stories that get everybody excited about it. So I appreciate every one of you, especially if you made it to the end of this. I don't know if I'll ever do this again. If it is something that you would like me to do on the next time I'm on the road a little bit, definitely let me know in the comments below, or, shoot me a message on one of the platforms. But yeah, I'm just kind of blabbering at this point. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.